Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we're going over the small but packed 4-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings. It's actually pretty exciting. We got the Lakers versus the Bucks. We got the Clippers versus the Rockets. This actually is a pretty solid slate. Than the San Antonio game versus Atlanta is not half bad for fantasy purposes either. So this should be a pretty good slate. I'm looking forward to it. And before we continue, if you guys could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single night for the NBA season, if you like the videos I make, this is what I use to make my videos, my spreadsheet, and I update it throughout the day. As of right now, I'm just projecting of what can happen at this point. It's only 12 p.m., so a lot of things can change throughout the day, but I have my most up-to-date information on that spreadsheet as well as my Discord chat as well. I've done my projections throughout the day, my cheat sheet, all of that good stuff. Links in the description below for my Patreon. Without further ado, let's get into today's slate. So, up top, we have James Harden. I am personally passing on James Harden because I'd much rather play Giannis here at 11,300. So let's talk about him. He's going to be on the cover of my video, so he's going to be my top play of the slate. I don't really think there's any good reason that he shouldn't be the most expensive player on the slate every single night. His upside in competitive games is absolutely unmatched by anyone in the NBA right now. He's just too good for fantasy. It's just as simple as that. And if the game's competitive, he smashes. This is what happens with Giannis. I mean, if you look at his game log, he had 34 minutes versus Dallas. It was a competitive game, 76 fantasy points. Versus Cleveland, 24 minutes, 44 fantasy points. Yeah, that's what happens, but still about 2 points per minute on that night. 27 minutes versus Memphis, 56 points. Again, he only had 27 minutes, but then 35 minutes versus Orlando, 68 points. 26 minutes versus the Clippers, 46 points, 28 versus Detroit, 51, 22 versus New York, 54. Yeah, he's not going to hit that 80-point ceiling when he's only playing 22, 26, 28 minutes. Of course not. It's going to be impossible. And then versus Charlotte, he only had 20 minutes, got 45 points. Yeah, I mean, these numbers don't look great, but he's only playing 20-some minutes because the games were out of hand. That's just because the Bucks are so good. But versus Cleveland, more competitive game, 32 minutes, 60 points. And then versus Atlanta, it was a little disappointing with 56 points. But then before that versus Utah, I believe he played 35 or 38 minutes. He had over 80 fantasy points. So that's what I'm expecting tonight here because this game should be pretty competitive. And he's averaging 1.91 points per minute on the season. That, if you guys don't know what to base that off of, I'll tell you right now, James Harden is second right now with a 1.66 points per minute. And that's a pretty drastic difference. So Giannis is on his own tier in the points per minute department, and he also has a near 39% usage rate. And he's actually had a 44% usage rate at the very least the past 3 games, and he also had one game where he was at over 50% usage rate. So there's nothing not to like about Giannis here, and he should be the most expensive guy in this slate, and he's not. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And really, like I was saying earlier, the problem with Giannis is that the Bucks are really good and they tend to blow out teams. And he plays minutes in the 20s or upper 20s, but that should not happen tonight. And we have an awesome game lined up versus the Lakers, as we have the two best teams record-wise facing off versus each other. We have a tight 4-point spread, so I am excited for this one. I do think it will be competitive, and I think we can see 35-plus minutes from Giannis here in a competitive game. And I know the matchup's bad versus the Lakers, but I don't care about the matchup when it comes to Giannis. The matchup wasn't great versus Dallas either, and he still dropped 76 fantasy points. He's going to see, Anthony, I almost said Anthony Lake or Anthony Davis down low, but Giannis, I don't care about the matchups. I just compare if the game's going to be competitive, and if he gets me 35-plus minutes, he should be able to flirt with 80 fantasy points tonight. So definitely like Giannis tonight. He is my favorite spend-up of the entire slate. He does everything. He's going to get the rebounds. He's going to get the assists, blocks, steals, points. He can put up 50 real-life points. That's what he does. So Giannis, definitely my favorite play on the entire slate. Definitely think you should try to fit him in. And if I'm playing Giannis, I'm probably going to bring him back from one of these Lakers guys. And if I had to pick one from Anthony Davis or LeBron James, I prefer LeBron here. You get a 100 discount here. Anthony Davis is dealing with the injury. He should be good to go tonight, but I prefer LeBron here. This just feels like a nice LeBron game, and he did suck last game versus Indianapolis with Anthony Davis being out. It was really a weird game. So he crushed in the first quarter. It looked like he was about to have an 60-plus point game, but he did absolutely nothing in the second half. Did absolutely nothing. Even Malik Monk outscored him on that slate, and he just missed the triple-double too. He had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. That sucked, man. He just missed the triple-double, but hey, it happens, and I think he comes up big in this one. AD is expected to be back, but obviously that's fine. They played together all season, and Bron's been just fine this season, so there's no concerns there. He had 68 versus Atlanta, 58 versus Miami, 59 versus Orlando. I think we see more of the same from that. Yeah, he has a 32% usage rate on the season, averaging 1.55 points per minute, and he's only, I know this is so stuffy, sorry, and he's only 10K, so he did take a price hit as well. He was 10,900, so definitely like LeBron here, and this is a pace-up spot for the Lakers as well. Milwaukee is first in pace of play, and LA is 16th, so I always like pace-up spots here. This should be a pretty back-and-forth game, and I do think it really turns into a Giannis versus LeBron game, and obviously AD is going to be just fine as well, as long as he's good to go, but you can't play all three, so if I had to pick two, it's going to be LeBron and Giannis here, like both a ton. So those are my two top targets from those games. And then after that, we'll save some salary a bit, and then we'll talk about two GPP options tonight that I think are going to be pretty solid options. So Kawhi Leonard at 9,200. So the two Clippers here might be pretty solid GPP plays tonight. I expect LeBron and Giannis to carry heavy ownership, so it's automatically going to make these guys lower owned because you're not going to be able to fit in Kawhi and Paul George if you're going to try to jam in LeBron and Giannis. So and I think this game should be pretty solid for fantasy purpose. So let's just talk about Kawhi first. He comes in at 9,200. We have a 234 over-under, which is by far the highest on the slate. I believe the Lakers Bucks game's at 225 if I remember correctly, so 234 highest on the slate by far, and it's a pretty tight 5-point spread as well. And the Clippers have a 120 team total, which is highest on the slate, and both teams are also top 10 in pace of play as well. Clippers are 10th while Houston is 3rd, so I do like the game environment quite a bit. I do like the matchup for the Clippers versus Houston, who is one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA right now. They're ranked 29th versus small forwards, 26th versus shooting guards, 28th versus power forwards. You name it, they're pretty bad versus the position. Although point guards are actually pretty good versus point guards, but everything else they're pretty lackluster besides center. So point guards and centers they've actually been pretty good against. But, Leonard should be able to eat here. He got a 34% usage rate, 1.5 points per minute, and he should see a competitive game tonight, which is one thing I usually worry about the Clippers. But Kawhi Leonard, I think, is a fantastic play tonight. Only had 27 minutes in the last game versus Phoenix, so they were killing him, 32 points. But before that, 57 points, 37 minutes, 32, 41, 32, 58. So Kawhi Leonard, I think he's a pretty solid option. And a lot of what I just said can be applied to Paul George, so I'm not going to just repeat everything again about the Vegas totals and that, but I do like him quite a bit. Has a 32% usage rate on the season, 1.38 points per minute, fast-paced matchup versus Houston's awful defense. So Paul George definitely in play as well, only 8,500, so you can save about 700 from Paul George, from Kawhi Leonard if you want to play Paul George. So no problem with that. So do like Paul George. He is on my radar for GPPs. There's actually a ton of good plays on this slate tonight. Like there's a lot of good plays. There's a lot of places you can go. So I'm going to talk about a lot of guys in a row here. So get ready. So we're going to go from Kawhi Leonard all the way down to pretty much LaMarcus Aldridge. Then we'll skip a few spots and talk about some more guys. But Donovan Mitchell, so Mike Conley's going to be out again. And I do have interest here. Not really many better matchups for Utah than facing the Atlanta Hawks. They are the worst defensive team right now in points given up to just for fantasy purpose in general, and they're 24th versus shooting guards. He also has 3 consecutive games of over 40 fantasy points, so I do like that he's in good form. And without Conley, his usage rate will be over 30% in this game. And this is a nice pace-up spot versus Atlanta. They're 7th in pace-up play, while Utah is 20th, so I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. Utah also has a 116-point implied team total, which is pretty high. So he's going to get 35-plus minutes, usage rate over 30. Should be about 1.2 points per minute on the night. So I think Donovan Mitchell versus Atlanta is a pretty solid option. And I'm not sure how high owned he's going to be tonight, because if everyone wants to play Giannis, everyone wants to play LeBron, everyone's going to want to maybe get a piece of the Clippers game. I can't see Mitchell having too much ownership, but this is a really good spot. 8K is priced up a little bit. If he's in that 7K range, I'd say 100% go for it. But 8K makes you think about it a little bit. But I do think he's definitely got a lot of upside versus Atlanta, so do have interest in him. And then Spencer Dinwiddie, 7,900. So he is pretty much one of the safest plays every single night, especially when Kyrie Irving is out. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get about 40 or so points every single night. He has a 30+% usage rate with Kyrie Irving and Caris LeVert off the court. This is a good matchup versus the Spurs. They are 24th versus point guards, and he's averaging 1.3 points per minute. If you just look at his game log, he is so safe. He's going to get 30-plus minutes. He's a good scorer. 45 points, 34 points, only had 30 minutes in that game though, but 43 points, 40, 39, 38, 40, 44, 65, 38. You know what you're going to get from Spencer Dinwiddie. The guy's got upside as well, so definitely think he's one of the safer options every single night, and I have no problem if you want to play Spencer Dinwiddie and just lock up those 40 points. You'd also look at Rudy Gobert and Clint Capella. I think they're both pretty solid options. Gobert's the more expensive guy, but he's been pretty good. 43, 42, 52, 41, 41, 31, 52. It's a pretty good matchup down low versus Atlanta. They do rank 17th versus centers, and I have no problem with him. It's a nice pace-up spot. I think he can rack up the rebounds here. Should be a really easy double-double, maybe even get a 20-20 game out of him. So Rudy Gobert, do have some interest there. They have a pretty high implied team total. And you can also look at Clint Capella, who I think might have some ownership tonight. He's 7,600, and he's been pretty good. And last time he played the Clippers, I believe he had 44 points, 19 rebounds, 17 points. And the guy's been pretty much good all season. I think the one game I did play him, he sucked. Was that versus Cleveland, I want to say? 37. I shouldn't say he sucked, but 37 points felt a little. No, it was versus Phoenix when I played him, and he got 28 points. So, yeah, that sucked. But other than that, he's been pretty good all season. He's shown near 60-point upside. So, I do like Clint Capella. I like this game environment quite a bit. Clippers are 19th versus center. So, I do think Capella is a pretty solid option if you want exposure to this game. He's going to play big minutes, close to 40 minutes per game. So, don't mind Capella at all. You can look at Aldridge versus Brooklyn. Not one of my favorite plays of the night, but it's just a good matchup down low versus Brooklyn. They're 26 versus centers. He's been in pretty good form. 48 points, 36 points, 37 points, 40 points. Should be an easy double-double tonight. Maybe like a 20-13 kind of game out of LaMarcus Aldridge. Playing big minutes, 35-plus minutes. So LaMarcus Aldridge definitely on my radar for tonight. Let's see. Going down the list a little bit. Bojan Bogdanovic at 6,700. Just no Mike Conley, so that's just more minutes and usage to go around. Past 2 games, he's been very, very good. Scored 30 points in both games. Played 37 minutes in both games. 40 fantasy points, 48 fantasy points. Definitely on my radar. I just love anybody, really just anybody versus Atlanta. They rank 30th versus small forwards. So I do have Bojan. Or is it Bojan? Either way. We just call him Bojangles. but 6,700, don't mind him. Montrezl Harrell, not a lot of interest. I mean, he's really cheap at 6,100, but the guy's got upside too. But don't love the matchup versus Houston. But if you just want exposure to this game, you could look at Harrell's way. Joe Ingles, he has been absolutely awesome recently. So if you just look at his game log, awesome given his price tag, but been very, very good. So 40 points, 31 points, 39 points, 31 points, 37 points, 12, and 38. Guy's been really good. He's playing big minutes, 35-plus minutes almost every single night. Pretty much does it all in the stat sheet. He'll get his rebounds, he'll get his assists, gets his points. So I think Joe Ingles is a pretty solid play at 6K. No Mike Conley, just more usage to go around. It's a great matchup versus Atlanta. They're awful versus shooting guards, awful versus small forwards. They're dead last versus small forwards. So Joe Ingles, I think he's a pretty solid mid-range option tonight. Upside might be limited at this price tag, but I think he's solid. I think he gets you 30-plus points versus Atlanta. Also look at, I thought I skipped someone. Maybe not. But Lou Williams, if you just want exposure to this game, I have no problem with that. He should have over a 30% usage rate off the bench. He's pretty cheap too at 5,900. The guy's got upside. He's also got downside as well, but the past 2 games have been pretty good. 39 points, 34 points, but he also has 17-point upside too. But that was a really rough matchup versus Indianapolis. And this is one of the better matchups you can get versus Houston. Going to be fast-paced. That usually means, when it's a fast-paced game, I like Lou Williams because he can blaze threes. He can score points in a hurry. So I don't mind Lou Williams in GPPs. Not sure if he'd ever make my cash game lineup, but 5,900, it's a really cheap price tag for Lou. Last time he was 5,900, scored 39 points. So do have some interest in Lou in GPPs just to get exposure to this game. But one of my favorite plays on the entire slate is the Dante Murray here at 5,700. I think he's just a little too cheap here for how good he's been the past 2 games, and the guy's been pretty good this season just on a points per minute basis. So one of my favorite plays of the night. He's seen about 30 minutes the past 2 games, which I do like to see. Then he had 32 minutes versus Sacramento as well. Only 17 versus Cleveland, but I do like that he had about 30 minutes the past 3 out of the 4 games. And he's been playing very well. 31 points, 39 points, 31 points. And this is a good matchup versus Brooklyn, too. They're 27th versus point guards. This is a nice pace-up spot for the Spurs here, as Brooklyn is 9th in pace of play. And he's been over a point per minute this season, 1.16 points per minute, 22% usage rate. Only 5,700. He's grading out as one of the best point per dollar options on the slate for me right now on my spreadsheet. So I think he gets you 30-plus points. And 5,700, I think he's a very solid play tonight. So I do like Murray quite a bit. Then just scrolling down a little bit here, we can talk about, there's not a lot of guys that are really cheap that I like, so we'll see if more value opens up throughout the day. But where is Joe? No, not Joe Ingles. I think just Royce ONeal is the cheapest guy I wanted to talk about. So he's 4,100 going up against Atlanta. The minutes will be there. He's played 30-plus minutes the past 3 games. No Mike Conley, just opens up more usage. Past 2 games, honestly, not too bad given his price tag. He had 24 points in the last game versus Orlando, 35 minutes, 3 for 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, 11 points. 24 points, not terrible. Then 28 points versus Golden State in 33 minutes. He got 28 fantasy points, 3,600. Not too bad. 4,100, they raised his price a little bit, but I think he could flirt with 30 fantasy points tonight, and that's not too bad at 4,100. And there's not a lot of good cheap options on this slate. So I'm hoping some more value opens up throughout the day because it's going to be tough to fit in some studs. But Royce ONeal is right now the lowest I am looking to go. This is an elite matchup versus Atlanta. They are absolutely awful versus small forwards, dead last. So do have some interest in Royce ONeal. Now, I don't remember Moutier's price, but I did want to look. He's 3,700, and just the minutes, they're not secure. In the one game I played him, was it versus Golden State or was it versus... No, it was versus the Lakers. I played him versus the Lakers, and I think like 50% of the field did. He only saw 10 minutes, had 4 fantasy points. It sucked. It definitely did not work out that night. But did play 22 minutes versus Minnesota, then 19 minutes versus Golden State, but then 11 minutes versus Orlando. So the minutes are all over the place. You really can't trust him. So not really looking his way. But if you have a hunch that he gets 20 minutes and he gets 20 points at 3,700, might be a decent value option. But just really tough to trust. But I think that's going to be it for this video. There's not a lot of good value options on this slate. Last night there was a ton. And, last night was just an absolute chalk fest. The lineup I landed on, it was... I don't even remember. It was Andrew Wiggins, Jeff Teague, Bradley Beal, Davis Bertans, Josh Okogie, if that's how you say his name, Gorgie Dang, and then Robert Covington, and then I believe I played Kemba Walker. The whole field had that lineup. I mean, there was like a 140 person GPP I was in. I believe like 40 of us had the same lineup. It's just so annoying because I was like, well, I can't win money now because even if it does good, we're all going to share the same amount of money, and that sucked, but. Yeah, hopefully tonight's not as chalky. Just depends on injury news. But anyway, guys, see you guys in the next video. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter, ChrisPanel16. And, yeah, have a good... Is it Thursday? Yeah, it's Thursday. Okay, have a good Thursday.